Hey guys, what's up, and welcome back to this week's episode of That Scale RC Show, episode 91. I'm one of your hosts, Adam, alongside with Richard Rawlings, aka Jay Kendall. And I'm only saying that because
I don't even know who that is.
Richard Rawlings. You don't know who Richard Rawlings is?
No, I don't pay attention to the world.
Do you know who Gas Monkey Garage?
I've seen just stuff here and there, but I'm not familiar with them.
It's the picture that Dan Sutherland sent us earlier and said this is
what you look like.
That's Richard Rawlings. You have the same kind of like I said, you got the Hemi stripes going on in your beard, so it's kind of like the same.
Gotcha.
So, but also, we don't have Travis with us, so this episode might go a little haywire, so just bear with us. But as promised, we finally got you guys another guest. So without further ado, let's have our guest of the week introduce himself.
Hey guys, I'm Wyatt. I'm with Weasel Motorsports. Some of you guys may have seen me on Instagram building some of the raddest kind of RC trophy trucks out there right now. I specialize in most desert style fabrication for RC stuff. Like I just finished up an Ultra 4 truck that some of you guys might have seen, and currently working on a scale replica of Nick Eisenhower's Terminator 2 6100 truck. If you want to see, most of that's on Instagram right now. I do have a Facebook page, kind of starting to post on there, and a YouTube. But yeah, peep my Instagram for anything that's super recent. It's where I mostly post.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we've been trying to hook up with you for a couple weeks now. I'm glad we finally are able to get you on the show. Kind of already gave you the quick rundown, and we might be a little rusty ourselves because it's been a while since we've had a new guest. But we like to do these icebreaker questions to kind of let the listeners get to know you a little bit more. So I'm just going to start firing away, and feel free to answer them to the extent you want. The first question is, what was your first scale crawler?
Oh, shucks. A HPI FJ from Dan Sutherland. That was my first, I guess, kind of framed RC car. He traded a few things, picked it up for me. That was probably 4 years ago. And that was kind of like the start of the scale passion.
Nice. So do you have, because this is the next question, the second question is, what would be your favorite scale crawler? Or I guess my other question is, do you have a favorite scale crawler?
I've actually been asked if I was going to build a scale crawler. And I probably would. I don't have a favorite because it's not my style, but if I had a platform to build off of, it would probably be that, I think it was the SSD kit you can buy that had the
trail
3D printed. Yeah, it had the 3D printed motor, the fake fuel cell with the tranny and the transfer case. It was pretty scaled out.
That was the SSD Trail King.
Yeah, that's, if I were to build something to that extent, it would have to be with that as my kind of platform.
Nice. So next question is your favorite place to go crawling, or I guess in your case to take out the RC cars.
I have a few spots. One of them is the back of our off-road shop, our fabrication shop. We have big, long, open dirt roads that follow railroad tracks, which with my trucks that exceed 65 to 80 miles per hour, I can just let out and fly, and there's whoop sections and all sorts of stuff.
Nice. So then I guess, do you have a favorite RC event?
I finally started going, Axial Fest was my first super big event that I went to a little bit ago, and that was pretty neat. I think my top would probably be Proline by the Fire.
Nice.
Which is this weekend.
Are you going to be able to make that?
I'm not sure. It might be a last minute. I head down Friday night, get a hotel, or drive down for one day Sunday. It's about a 6.5 hour drive for me. So it all depends with work.
Okay. So then I guess next question is, current number of RCs you own.
Oh geez. I got one, two, three, four, five. That doesn't count how many are running, and then I think I got two customer vehicles, which don't count, but they're on the bench.
Nice. I guess unless you want to answer this one, we can skip over this one. We typically ask, do you prefer comp or trail days? And like I said, being that you're more like the desert style, it's up to you. So I'll let you have the floor.
Hey, I mean, I took the trophy truck up to Axial Fest, totally maybe not, or did pass tech, and I trailed it. And I will say that whoever says trophy trucks can't, do rock crawling, they've never done it, because I hit some of them comp trails pretty hard, and it held up. So
Nice. And then the last but not least, do you have a favorite hobby shop?
Man, sadly there isn't too many local hobby shops by me, and plus, not really, because all the parts that are on my trucks I actually make myself. So I'm kind of my own hobby shop, I guess.
Fair enough. Now you keep referring to that you have an off-road shop. So, like, do you come from a like one-to-one background? Is that what kind of got you into building all the custom, off-road desert style trucks?
So this is we'll kind of get a little in depth. Might be a little long story. It actually started through my father. Back, he's I guess an OG desert racer. Back in the '90s, he was the Class 7 Open champion for, best in the desert. He raced Silver State, Vegas to Reno. He was a 3-time champion in a row for that. And he has a hood. If you ever go to Slash X Cafe in Barstow, his hood's there. So there's a ton of history through that, and that's really what, watching video VHS tapes. I don't know if kids even know what those are these days. VHS tapes of him out like at the Urington 300, which I think is still a race, and that's really what inspired me, to get into the desert side of things. And then 5 years ago, when I started, the Weasel Motorsports, I couldn't afford, because I was in middle school at the time. I couldn't afford the Axial Sport Trophy Truck kit, and I go, well, I can't afford it, but I can make my own, and that's really truly how it all started. And then I realized I could build better than what companies were providing with, and then it just kind of, I figured it would last for a little bit, and then I moved back into one-to-one when I could afford it, but it got a little crazy. So
Nice.
my day job is I work on pre-runners and off-road vehicles, but at night I work on RC cars.
Yeah, so it sounds like you get plenty of, influence while you're at work, and probably want to transfer it over to the scale world.
Oh yeah, it's trying to adapt techniques from the full-size world down below, and also there's certain things that I've done on the smaller trucks which I've adapted to when I'm working on the full-size trucks. One thing which I won't get into too depth and about is the suspension wise and full size, how they have bypass shocks. Well, I'm starting to work on a actual true 1/10 scale and 1/7 scale bypass shock in RC. So it's just adapting. Nice. And yeah, there's one secret photo on my Instagram page. It's like the fourth photo down, and you'll see just a mock-up of the housing that I've been working on.
Sweet. I'm gonna probably go to that right now because I don't even know if I've noticed that.
Yeah, I said if you spot it, it's a figment of your imagination, because I had it on the truck and I wanted to. The truck was looking super cool, but I didn't feel like taking off the shock, and I go, well, I guess I could post, because I mentioned it in the past that I was working on it, and I was trying to work on it with a larger company to try to actually have it productionized. But sadly, this was right before COVID hit, and that really killed it, because they couldn't really venture off into unknown territory after that. So it kind of sat for a while, and then recently I just finished up a Ultra 4 buggy for a guy in Arizona, and I had some spare time to get back on it, and just decided I can make it all myself. And I can print in metal, but I'll probably end up going through like Shapeways and stuff to have like the final bodies printed. But all the valves and all that I'll do myself.
Oh, nice. So you're saying you're 3D printing that out of metal?
Yeah.
So your 3D printer, you actually are able to 3D print metal?
Yeah, so they came out with the update with like the hot end and the material. So it's not technical. I mean, it's kind of weird because the 3D printed metal filaments. Some of the cheaper ones are partial metal, but they aren't. It's very brittle for what I can print. I guess you could say like so for $46 each. I think it was to print those housings in stainless. I'll go through Shapeways to have that done, and those are true. That one on the truck was a triple bypass, but I'm just trying to get a single bypass to work, and then I'll move on to triple.
That's actually pretty cool because you're probably the first person that I think either one of us has ever talked to that actually has dealt with their own 3D printing metal, because I think right now the hottest thing in 3D printing is people that do resin prints.
Yeah, and honestly, I wish like I'll probably end up getting a resin printer here soon, just because the quality and I can print like the thing with that how that shock body is you have those bypass tubes and that reservoir, which with a filament printer it's really tough for it to print that thin of a wall. I mean, it did it on my Perusa. I have a Perusa Mark 3S that I use as my main printer, and it did a flawless job on it, but still, you know resin is where it's at if you want high quality parts. Even with casting too, you won't have any layer lines and all that. Um, but I use like the Mark III. If like my most recent post from today, I posted a photo showing the grill, the '96 F-150 grill on the Terminator 2 trophy truck, and yeah, next will be the body and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, very.
So, well, no, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's always nice. You probably are our first and only guest so far that actually works with the one-to-one, kind of like in their day job. I mean, almost everybody we talk to, the RC is truly a hobby. It's a way for them to kind of get in and, get out of whatever it else is that they do. But it almost seems like everybody we talk to, we all find that they have some sort of either interest in the one-to-one, or they come from the one-to-one background. So, I mean, I think that's pretty cool because I've said it numerous times. That's how I got into it. I used to take my 94 out all the time, and at the time, that was my daily driver, and I couldn't afford to break it and then have it sit down and then have to try and fix it and hurry up and, this, that, and the other. So I always had to be kind of careful. And then I got into the RC because, you can roll it over, you can, break a drive shaft, you can blow up the transmission, and yeah, it's going to suck, but you can get it repaired for a couple $100 or less and be back out on the trail and not have to figure out how are you getting home, what are you going to use to drive for the rest of the week, what are you going to, So I guess my question is, do you see, based on like what you're doing, do you see any other areas in RC that could potentially come from the one-to-one realm?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'm kind of at the same like spot that like you were at. Like I got a '96 F-150. I haven't posted yet. I just built this dual spare tire cage, the pre-runner style. I'm doing a bumper on it tomorrow, and it's one of the things. I build the RC cars, RC trucks are now because one, financially, it's just impossible to do a full size truck. But I'd like to go. The RC truck isn't my to do and my only thing that it's going to be. I'd love, at the overall look of Weasel Motorsports, to head into the one-to-one realm. That's kind of, I'm using the RC trucks as my base, and soon hopefully I can start pushing into, like, that's why I'm trying to take the page, and I just started putting in more of my daily work that I do, and then mixing in with the RC car stuff, so I can kind of start diversing my page.
Rad. So I guess my next question is, because it sounds like a lot of the interest that you're in, and I don't know if you know who he is or if you've connected with him online, and I forget what his last name is, but his first name's Elvis. What is his Instagram? I know he works. He's always been a big fan of the desert scene. I know, and I think he's from Nevada. He used to come to all the events, and he'd always have.
Are you talking about he's into one-to-one now. He's got a truck he's building.
Yeah, he was building his girlfriend's truck or something for a while.
I know there's a gent which we were super connected with during the time he was building RC stuff. I think it's Elvis something. We're friends. Talked a bunch when he was selling a ton of Baja Ray parts, and he's moved fully into one-to-one now. I think he got a Toyota that he's working on.
The hard part is I don't know what he goes by. I forget what he goes by on.
He's friends with Single Track Media. I'm drawing a blank now.
Yeah, because he goes. Okay, so he spells it. The E on Elvis is 3. It's Elvis RC is what he goes by on Instagram. And yeah, his last post was actually back in June. It's been a while since he's posted. He said, "Last minute trip to Vegas with the racing family. Thank you, Walton family and Tyler Thomas 840 for the amazing opportunity to come help out." Yeah, he's always been into, the whole desert scene, and that's why, I forget, because I thought he moved. I thought he moved to California somewhere for something, but I don't know if he's still here or not, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't, because he lives in Reno, Nevada, if I remember right.
Yes. I know that's where he's from, because we used to always see him at all the CKRC events back in the day, since they were a lot of local events to him.
Yeah, we haven't fully connected. He's commented on my posts sometimes here and there, because all people repost my trucks and stuff, and there's it's called RC Desert Trophy Trucks or something, and it's one of the bigger groups, and he'll always comment on it. Seems like a nice dude.
Oh yeah, no, he's super cool.
Yeah,
it's just interesting because I know for a fact he's another one that's, like I said, big time into the desert scene. So was just curious if you guys ever connected, because that's one thing I've always noticed, especially with RC, and I guess you could say in the scale realm, the desert has never really quite took off. Axial had the I'm drawing a blank now what that was called. Jay, I'm drawing a blank. What was the Axial's car? The trophy truck.
The Score trophy truck?
The Yeti Score TT.
Yeah, the Yeti. So
which
they came
can't
out
get anymore.
Exactly. It's been discontinued. It was interesting because that came out, and that truck actually seemed to be almost a little more popular than the actual Yeti, and there really wasn't much different other than the fact that it came with the trophy truck style cage versus, whatever you want to call the other Yeti cage, the more tubular, approach. And it was interesting because that's when people kind of started trying to do the Baja stuff. I think Jay, didn't you guys help with that Brenthal build, or wasn't that you that did the Brenthal?
Yeah, that was us.
Yeah.
And then yeah.
So yeah, there's it's certainly, there was a point, I think Justin, I don't know if you guys know Justin, he was probably one of the top, I'd say trophy truck guys doing that stuff. He's, I think, back east or something. It was what was his YouTube? It was Psionic or something.
Oh yeah, I remember him. He built some really nice stuff too.
Yeah, and his was, he did the, I guess, the chassis plate, and you had the bolt-on traxxas / front bulkhead, and then you had a bolt-on top cage. And his stuff was, I would say the cream of the crop during his time. I know he's kind of out of it. He's been out of it for a while now. But after that, it was kind of dead, and I came into it, and I think I've kind of relit the fire in certain cases. I built shucks, I think after I built the twin I-beam truck, I've started to see all these people building I-beam trucks, and it's pretty neat. But I hope it starts growing more now that we have like the UDR out and Brenthal, the larger 1/7 scale stuff. Um, but yeah.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, have you ever checked out any of Metal Concept RC stuff? Because they kind of also did like a resurgent of like they came out years ago with that one piece axle that was, I believe, a replacement for the Yeti.
Yeah, the Terminator 2 is sponsored by them.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
yes.
I've known that. Well, the company recently sold to a good buddy of mine who so a guy named Michael who started the company, owned it for many years, sponsored Justin. That's why Justin had all the medical concept parts, and then um, COVID kind of hurt them because they were having issues. I called Michael a few times, and they couldn't get the ground stock that most of the parts were made out of, and then just recently, 949 Designs took it over and is starting to bring back, the stock. So their axles aren't in stock right now. Those are the last to be made, if I remember correctly. A lot of the A-arms and stuff he's trying to get back out. But like the 96, no, the 66 F100, that's the twin I-beam sponsored by Proline Racing. It's also getting it's called their HD TT 10 axle with a 1/4 inch. It's got all the larger parts in it, and it's the only axle I can run. I got to the point when I had the low C axle, I was actually flexing the mesh apart because the way that axle is designed, I was flexing the pinion from the pumpkin, and it would start stripping out my pinions. So I had to ditch that because my trucks are 16 pounds and tons of torque. There's no clutch in them because they're heavy.
Oh wow. So I guess my other question is, so since you do, and this is going to be more for any other fabricators that listen. So do you dabble with strictly solid rod when you're building your cars, or do you try to get any DOM tubing in there to lighten it up at all?
So I've been. This is probably something that I'm going to start. I guess I should make a post about this soon because I've gotten a lot of questions recently now because like I'm a team builder for, I don't know if you guys know Scale Metal Supplies. They're located out in LA. I'm one of their team builders, and since he is now stocking like shucks, he's got DOM, chromoly, all this stuff. Everyone's like, well, you're gonna go with this and that, and truly, like the 66 is a really good example. It's triangulated almost perfectly to how a 1-to-1 truck would be, and it weighs maybe, I think that the truck when I had it built, it had no panels, nothing. It was just chassis running. Was like I think 8 pounds, 10 pounds, which is perfect. I mean, and weight is kind of, in my case, I like weight because I like tuning. I go kind of crazy into suspension tuning, and I really need the weight. Like with an I-beam truck, it's very biased to have the weight in the back because beams like to be a little booty heavy. So, I try to stuff the battery packs back there. I try to get everything I can. And so going with the solid, not only is it stronger, but it gives me a little bit more weight. And I use the DOM, like the sway bar. So this is like from the full-size world, which not a lot of people do in the RC world. On the full size, we have, a DOM tubing that runs through the chassis, and then we have two like bronze bushings that hold the sway bar, the inner sway bar rod, which then is splined for the links. Well, that's the same thing I do for the RC stuff. So that's like I'll use the DOM here and there, but the only other thing I probably use it for is like detachable Nerf bars, since I'll destroy those during a season. But for main chassis, just because I posted a video of like my trophy truck taking a roll off the curb, and it was nasty, but nothing, and that was only tacked together. But that just shows how the chassis was triangulated. Nothing bent, nothing broke. I drove it right after the crash, and that was a pretty gnarly crash. So if it was like a road, like if I did like a road chassis, which I've been tempted about, I probably moved more towards the DOM just because then I would care for lightness sake, but for strength, I'd just stick with solid.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious because I know, and I'm sure you've seen them on Instagram. There's UC Fab, and I know a lot of his higher end chassis he makes with DOM just so that way it's lighter. But then again, he's building more like moon buggies and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I might dabble into that and just kind of test it out. But I'm like the Terminator 2 chassis. Most of my trucks, I try to keep around like the 45, 50 mile per hour mark because anything more than that, it's really just excessive. I have plenty of speed, but the Terminator 2 truck, I really wanted to push the faster speeds. 70 to 80 miles per hour, and when you roll a truck at that speed, there's no body left. I mean, and that chassis will be completely square after. So I don't know. It's just something that's always worked, and it's super strong if you build it right.
Nice. Yeah, and it's funny you brought up Scale Metal Supplies. Yeah, we actually had Andre on here, I think right before Axial Fest. And he actually was the one who mentioned about getting you on the show. So that's kind of how all this started. But yeah, no, and that's also awesome. I guess we'll just do like a quick little, side step over to that. Andre's kind of filling this void, especially for, the scale builders. There's not too many people who offer, 1/10 scale fab parts to build things. Carter Fab Machine back in the day used to have a ton of options, and then he kind of like just stopped. To be honest, I don't even know if he's still around doing the RC stuff. I think I've seen a couple of his posts still float around, but I don't think he's selling parts. There's I'm drawing a blank now. Then there's a BPC chassis out of Sacramento. They have a couple. You can get the fab sheets from them, and they have like all the triangulated parts and the shock tab parts. Very similar to what Andre sells. But it's interesting to see the passion that somebody has, and it's actually quite funny. I got to kind of watch what I say on here because I guess he was listening to our last show, and I was talking about doing a replica build of my 94 and how I was torn. Like I'm thinking about going with the SCX 10-3 straight axles only because of the scale, the scale realism of having an offset pumpkin and all this, that, and the other. He already started trying to fab up a one-off leaf spring mount for those axles. Mainly because I just talked about it. So I think it's pretty cool when you have somebody that's that passionate into it.
Yeah, I met Andre at the very beginning when he started, and for a lot of the time, like for one thing, I'm the only other person, at least that I know of right now, that does the full center mount uniball front end, a true trophy truck style front end with swing set steering and all that junk. And all those, mounts, and I even build my own transmissions too. And all that stuff I was doing by hand, or I have a buddy that's got a small fiber laser that I would, send out stuff to have him do. And then when we started linking up and he had offered, a spot on the team, I go, yeah, it'd be killer. Now that we're coming out with, he's also a 1-to-1 guy. So he's dabbling into like the bumpers, the foldable bumpers. Trailing arms, we're coming out with a ton of new products, and then I do a lot of CAD work too, so that's why him and I got along really well, because he'd have stuff that he'd want to get done and I'd draw it up for him. But no, it's if he can build a solid ground, he can go anywhere he wants, because there's a ton of demand just for the tabs. I mean, I'd spend hours sitting there cutting tabs and all that, but now it's like I can order it up, or if anyone on here needs stuff and use my code, it's Weasel10, you get 10% off all your order. So use it up. But if he can really get a set in stone store, he could go places.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, how did I stumble? I stumbled across Andre back when I think he was under it was Anarchy something.
Well, he's got 2 pages. He's got he's got Scale Mill Supplies, and he has his own like builders page where he does a ton of work because he also does like bulk orders for people. Like if you need like the bumper, he does the prefab bumpers for the frame railed vehicles. My knowledge in like the scale like crawler stuff is not that big because it's just like not what I do. So, but he's got another. I might try to find it. I don't remember what it was called, but I think he's tagged it a couple times.
Yeah, when I found him, he was something like Anarchy something RC or Anarchy RC or something like that, and he just had started trying to like have like the one-off, like not one-off, but I mean like the production parts, like the tabs, the winch plates, and all that stuff. And then he rebranded all those parts, or at least started when he was doing it in or under the name Scale Metal Supplies, and then from there on, it's always just been Scale Metal Supplies.
Yeah, it was Anarchy RC, which was kind of like I'd say like his personal / build page stuff. And I met him right then, and then he had started moving to Scale Metal Supplies, which then the name got changed again because somehow his account got hacked and it got fully deleted. So if you were following him, make sure that you guys go back and refollow him just in case, because that did happen recently.
Yeah, and that's also kind of like a good thing just for anybody to know. I mean, I know I've done it with all my accounts, my personal and my RC, especially with Instagram. It's so easy to just do that 2-step verification process, and then that way it's supposed to be kind of hack proof at that point. I've really only noticed the people that have been hacked since that option came out has been anybody who never set it up. So
yeah, and he didn't have that set up, and I was like, dude, that's like, I mean, man, that just sucks. But now he's got it all good and ready, so I go, well, get back after it. I mean, I know he's committed a lot. I think he's now full time into Scale Metal Supplies. I mean, that's a big commitment and a big step. So I hope it all pays off and works out for him.
Yeah, same here. And he's been a good friend and a good supporter of our show, That Scale RC Show. So I guess another question I have for you is, do you, when you fabricate all your chassis, is that all MIG welded or TIG welded or brazed?
MIG and TIG, both.
Okay.
There's certain parts because the bulkhead pieces, which are all custom laser cut, from Andre. I send all my stuff to him now. All the bulkheads I will TIG weld just because it's a little nicer than MIG welding. I can get my heat penetration a lot better. But most of the tube work, I'd say on my personal rigs, is all MIG welded. But everything for customer chassis is TIG welded now.
Nice. Yeah, no, I was always curious because that's one of those things I've always thought about getting into something else other than MIG welding. That's why I always say I'm more of like a stick it together person. Don't go going through my builds with a fine tooth comb. You'll find issues or things that don't look copacetic. So it's more just it sticks together and it gets the job done.
Yeah, the one thing that like with TIG welding, it's a lot of undercut. If a lot of times when you see people with like the 3/16 rod and you see they have that scale bead, the closer you look at it, it's really a lot of undercut. I'm still experimenting with it, but that's one thing I don't really like about it. The one thing I did like with MIG welding is you leave a little bit of gap for your filler rod to go, and then that way you can get a lot of heat. I mean, you can get it real fast. You can take that 3-second burst through each run, and then you get nice perfect heat, nice penetration, and super strong. I mean, and I've even proven. I showed a guy one of my chassis that I just only tack welded, and I went out and I rolled it and I showed him just because how it was triangulated, just it being tack welded, it was as strong as it being welded. So it all just depends on how you're building, and it all depends on your prep work too.
Yeah. So yeah, no, that was one thing I was curious about, because I always find it interesting talking with other people that do any kind of scale fabrication or fabrication with RCs in general, what they prefer. I know MIG typically seems to be the most common due to the cost of getting into it, because it's typically a little cheaper than getting a TIG setup. And then even with the brazing, I know there's some people, like I've seen some of the videos that Andre posts, and he just uses a standard, map gas and then, silver solder and brazes it together. But I've watched other people that get really into the brazing, and they go and buy like the jeweler's torch, and they get it like fine point and get it all like, like as an art form, and then they braze their stuff together. So just always
Yeah,
interesting to hear.
and the nice part with like brazing, I guess, is you can make it look like it wasn't even welded. When it gets painted, it looks like it's all one piece. Even with TIG welding, you can too. Uh, and like Andre, like in my opinion, I don't think I would probably braze anything just because you have to have everything clamped nice and tight, and the setup is a little longer. Um, and yeah, I mean, I trust MIG and TIG, but for the cost relevance, I mean, MIG is the way to go if you're starting out, because you can really learn your heat. Heat is number one thing to learn with MIG welding, and then you move on to TIG and all that.
Yeah. I guess my other question is, because since you're more of like the fabricator at heart, have you ever considered doing kind of like what BGR does and fabricate anything out of aluminum?
So, yeah, I mean, like the fuel cells, the fake fuel cells are like aluminum. The front arms, because we at our home shop we have a full machine. We have a couple lathes, one mill, and stuff where I machine out the front kits for my trucks, which are all aluminum arms and all that. But probably not, just because it's not kind of like my style, I guess. I mean, I might just to like experiment, but it's not something that I would continuously do, and that's plus, I don't like taking away from what other people do. Like that's Bill's like thing. I mean, he is the master at that. I mean, he does some amazing work, and I've been, very grateful to know him over these couple of years, and trying to get him to build a trophy truck, but it hasn't worked yet.
Well, yeah, no, I was just curious because like you actually, nailed it on the head. He's the only one I've ever actually really seen do any kind of fabrication out of aluminum. There's not, anybody else who does any kind of aluminum. It's usually CNC machine. Like you got Vanquish that'll CNC the whole axle out of a chunk of aluminum that's not fabricated. So Bill's really the only one who does any fabrication. The one thing that
Yeah.
I would actually kind of like to see from Bill is just if he would get, like, I've been on his website a couple times because, I want to see, like, I know that he's released a couple bumpers and whatnot for some of the SCX 10.3s, and it's like none of his stuff online's updated yet. So it's like he's still like, I think the latest vehicle he has on there, I don't even think he has any element stuff on there. It's still like SCX 10.2. So I'd like to see him get a little more updated with that, and he'd probably keep killing it in sales, because I remember there was a time when like BGR was like that was the aftermarket choice everybody went with when it came to like Wraith back cages, the any of the bumpers for your various trail rigs, and yeah, so I'd love to see that kind of come back too, because I think it's really awesome to see a different approach.
Oh yeah,
He's
for
really
sure.
highly sought after in the bomber world right now. Like guys with bombers really like his stuff. He's got a couple builds that he's done. One of them's for one of my friends up here. He has a BGR bomber, and the thing's just sick.
Nice. Yeah. So, I mean, and it's funny that everything seems to always kind of come back full circle around to the same thing. It's almost like anytime these little offshoot, ideas come out for the RC realm, it's like it's interesting to see what takes off and then what kind of just always kind of stays stagnant at the same level. And it's like I've always noticed that it's like unanimously the trail trucks seem to be popular no matter like who gets into them, because I don't know, maybe that's because it's the most easiest to like get behind, or like kind of like have interest in for like the one-to-one world. Like your bombers all seem to always be like that person that like to go fast and race, and the ratio of that to crawlers has always been small. So it's kind of like interesting to see, like, because right now I know Jay's got that moon buggy kind of build that he has, and it's always got me to want to build a moon buggy. But there's just not a lot of people out there offering that, and I just don't know if that's because they don't know how to replicate it in the 1/10 scale, or B, is it that they're just afraid there's not going to be that much interest, so it's not going to be something that they could really, keep going.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of interesting. I mean, like with my trucks, a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people who do, try to build the trophy truck stuff, and a lot of time, their proportions are a little off or this and that, and they always ask, how do you replicate like this guy's truck without even being there, or you live 12 hours away from him? And it's like I take some pictures, or I ask, like, I know Nick, he sends me photos of like how he did certain things, and then it's all about your eye. You just have to have that eye in order to build something like that, like all these trucks, there's no drawings for them, there's no nothing. I start out with a wheelbase. Sometimes I might want to change like the length of the wheelbase if like the last truck, was a little different. But besides that, it's just, you just kind of have to have that proportionate eye. I don't know, it's like that golden scale or whatever.
Yeah, no, I hear that. Because that's always been my kind of like pet peeve. That's why I was kind of happy that Andre came out with that Bend and Braze series for the bumpers, because like I have a couple rigs where it's just so hard for me. Like I have the vision of what I want it to look like, but to get it to replicate in that scale is just hard, because you're limited unless you have like a C or a plasma table where you can cut out your own parts. You really are limited to what you can use off the shelf. So it's like I remember on my hard body JK build, I built a bumper, but it took me forever to finally get what I wanted across. And at the end, I'm still kind of like not 100% satisfied with it, because I just don't think proportionally it looks right.
Yeah, and that's like, I've started, the issue is I spend so much time at my one-to-one work. I have a lot of people who, hey, can you build a bumper for me, or can you do a backup cage? Like, I know Dan's been trying to get me. Well, I'm actually waiting on him now. So Dan, if you're hearing this, give me your chassis. But like, Dan's been trying to get me to build him some cages for his crawlers, and it's mostly just, I don't know, just having that eye. Like, I don't have the fanciest tools. Like, even when I built like the Gen 4, which was the last year's truck, that was I use a hacksaw to cut the tubing, and then I have a mandrel bender. Half the time I bend by hand because I can line it up with, I just know the bend in my head so well I can get it, basically first try. And then I have, a 4-inch angle grinder, cutoff wheel, and just a ton of little fabrication tools, and that's basically it. I just recently built a full jig table, but half the time I just had my workbench is a big metal plate, so I make a ton of marks, center line marks, and that's how I build the base of the cage off of, and the rest is just scaling it up. And I mean, even being proportion off of something, it's still fully square. So it's just time consuming, but you gotta do it the right way.
Nice. No, I hear that, because I call some of my stuff amateur hour. Like, actually, I just revamped, and it was interesting. I should just throw it out, because I don't even know why I still have it, sitting, in my parts pile. But one of the first, I guess, fully built rigs I ever did was for Michelle's dad, and he's always been a 2-2 guy, so I kind of built like this 2-2 truggy kind of thing. And at the time, I think like I said, it was maybe my first or second full, ground up build that I ever did, and trying to get everything square was always the hard part. And it was funny because, like, if you stare at that one long enough, you'll see that the bends that I did in the chassis weren't 100% perfect. So like this time around, when I tried to do it, because the original one I built with a scale shop chassis, and this time, because we were trying to make it Axial Fest legal, I did it out of a BPC chassis. And the thing is, he's running a Wraith skid, so the Wraith skid's wider, but I wanted the chassis to kind of be more like the SCX platform, like more like a trail truck. So I ended up bending it, and this time what I ended up doing was I kind of measure or mimicked the bends both directions. So I put it in the vise, bent it one way, then when I bent the other one, I kind of held them side by side to see if they were to the same going in the opposite direction. And then I was able to get it much more square. But getting your stuff square when you go that, far into it of building something, from the ground up, it does get challenging.
No, yeah, and like I think that's something, in the last, I'd say, 2 years where I've kind of really upscaled my work. Um, that's something I strive is to have, perfectly square triangulation. I do all the suspension geometry too. And like that U4 chassis I built, which was just one of those, I scaled it off of, he sent me two axles, trailing arms, and some big old wheels with tires on it, and that's all I had to work off of. Um, that whole chassis was 100% square. All the tubes, everything. The four link was perfect. I have been inset DOM tubing, which actually held the DOM tubing went to the link mount. So it's like the full size ones where they have the DOM tubing with the bolt inside, and that's something I strive to do. Plus, when I started, I guess gaining followers and growing my name and all that, I really wanted, every post that I post, I want it to be the best that I can do, because, if I wasn't doing the best, then, I shouldn't be posting.
Well, that's a good kind of like quality or like a bar to set your stuff at,
Yeah, very.
Yeah. Jay, do you have any other input or questions?
No, I've just been enjoying listening to all of this just because it's fascinating to me, and I love pre-runners and desert trucks. It's like my thing, and so no, I've just really enjoyed listening to all this.
Yeah, I figured you'd have a kick out of this one because I know like a lot of the stuff your inspiration comes from is a lot of desert style builds.
Yeah, I don't know. There's time is just such a if I had more time, there'd be stuff like that I would try and tackle. But in the meantime, I dig looking at what everybody else is doing and stuff because it's just super inspiring. So, especially like your I-beam stuff was rad. Like, I mean, that was just incredibly cool. So I love seeing that stuff.
Yeah, just wait till you see what's coming out for it. It's a that first kit that I built was like I had a short amount of time. I had deadlines I had to make, so I whipped it together really fast. And this whole new kit, it's crazy. Like it's got its own custom spindles off a 5-axis mill. The beams are all machined. I mean, it's nuts. So
wow,
yeah,
nice.
it's been something like I got another guy help me out on the kit, and hopefully it will develop into something that I can produce because. That's a lot. I wanted, there's now there's people building them and they build them on, the crawlers and stuff. But I wanted a kit that I could smash like my trophy trucks, IFS. I didn't want something that like, oh, I have to be careful with, I wanted to have the same energy when I'm driving my normal trucks. I want to go out and smash when I'm smashing on the other stuff. And, no one had really done something like that. And I said, well, nothing's impossible. So I just built it.
So awesome.
Sweet. Since I'm kind of running out of ideas, I'm gonna actually bring up a product that I saw that's getting released for something, and then maybe if Wes wants to comment on it, we can kind of get his opinion on it. Because I know it's not really a big part of the desert scene, but I don't know, for some reason crawlers, they seem to love it. But there's talk about this SCX24 portal axle upgrade, and from everything I've seen, it appears to be a full bolt-on kind of deal. It's not, unlike the SCX 10.3, where it's an actual, each the front axle and rear axle is designated to the portal design. This one almost looks like, and I believe the first ones coming out are going to be 3D printed, and then I think from there, I think there were talks that he wants to do it out of aluminum. But it's actually pretty cool because I'm on his website. It's Old Time RC, and he gives you everything. You're getting brass gears. They have all the bushings and the stub shafts and all that stuff, and new hex pins and all that. And I think it's interesting because he's keeping it actually relatively cheap for what it is. It's a like I said, it's a $50 upgrade, and I know the Portal fans are gonna go nuts with this.
Yeah, I'm starting to dabble more in the four-wheel drive scene because most of the trophy trucks nowadays are moving to four-wheel drive, and in RC it certainly will help with cornering and all sorts of stuff off the line. And most, like, I think, the Gemco built one-to-one trucks. No, who was it? Some of the newer trucks are actually on portals, which is
Oh, I
crazy to
think the
think.
Mason is.
Is it the Mason?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the Mason one.
And they're moving to portals, and I go, man, portals on a trophy truck. That's just a whole different game. I mean, I'm old school. I love the two-wheel drive, just straight up, get after it. But four-wheel drive is certainly the best of two worlds.
Yeah, I mean, Bryce is like a good example of that. Like that dude has just been on fire since he got the new truck.
Yeah, and then it
I
sucks.
mean, he was great before, but now it's like borderline unstoppable.
Yeah, and I think didn't he just win the?
The 400.
Yeah. Well, I think McMillan Andy was like he passed him and all that, but then he had a really bad wreck, which was super sad to see.
Oh, I
Um,
missed that.
yeah, his truck's like completely toast.
Oh no.
I mean, I think Fish. Oh, who was it? There's one photo on Andy's page that shows like the front end of the truck just completely smashed and gone. But Fishgistics posted like an overhead photo, and he's like super far away from the course, and his whole truck's just done.
Oh, sad. Dude, that's just so heartbreaking because there's so much work and money that goes into those things.
Yeah, I guess I think the back half took most of the grunt, but both the drivers were they got out of the truck and all that. But I mean, most of the times with a chassis like that, like the cab portions are pretty much salvageable, but all the rest is kind of like start over.
God, that sucks. I need to look that up right now, actually. So I
Yeah,
can
if you go
see.
to like Fishgistics page and go scroll down, I think it's like 12 posts or something. You'll see a video of the overhead shot of like just his truck. I mean, the fiberglass is all done on it.
Oh boy.
I think
Just that video.
Andy posted a one picture of like the front of the truck. I mean, it's still got the Nerf bar on and all that, but I'm sure it's pretty mean.
Wow.
Just because
Oh
the
my
speeds that they're
god.
pushing now, it's just
Damn. That is terrible. Wow. Yeah, you can see the video that Fish posted. Like, it looks like I think it's Andy or either him or his navigator just like slowly walking in a circle around the truck. And it's like, I swear you can feel exactly what he's feeling just by watching it.
well,
Oh, what
there's
a
a quarter
shame.
million dollars right there done.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
Oh, that's sad. What do you think about Class 11? I want to get your thoughts on that.
the buggy class and all that,
Yeah,
or
the Volkswagen Bugs.
that's that's just rough. I don't know how they do it. I could
That
not.
seems like it would be so punishing.
I had a guy that wanted to pay me to build him a class 11 bug in 1/10 scale, and I go, I can't do it in full size. I don't know if I can do it in scale. It just seems that's just rough. And those guys like they'll do the whole course. I mean, that's just gruesome. I don't know.
You would be so sore and just beat to hell after
Like
something
I
like that.
love
Like, just
desert
so
racing,
bad.
and even if I couldn't afford a truck, I would not devote money into that because that's a lot of just grunt and pain.
Yeah, the one race that I saw that looked really fun for him was at King of the Hammers because it was almost just basically short course for the most part. You know, they weren't really out in the desert a whole lot, and it looked like such a kick in the ass. I mean, that would be so much fun to race, but then, you know, like really long, like point to point racing and stuff. No, forget it. Like, I mean, that's just asking to just either destroy your body or break somewhere really remotely and just spend a lot of time waiting for help. So
Yeah, and it's like with those things too, and I don't know with the more recent scenes, like when they actually get to go off the line. But like if you have to go off after like, you know, the trophy trucks and the class 7 trucks, now you're not working with like, you know, a slightly fresh course. You're working with a course that's got super big ruts, 4-foot whoops from those, you know, 40-inch tires. I mean, the course is just destroyed. And then, you know, that's a whole nother ballpark on those things. So yeah, no, thank you. I'm happy with mine.
yeah,
I
no,
think
I
I'd rather
understand
take
that.
my '96 F-150 with like a leveling kit over one of those through there because that's just no, thank you.
Yeah, I could see that. Definitely. No, I just they're just like for the most part they're almost like funny to watch. So it's just something I get a kick out of. I think those are pretty cool.
I mean, hey, all respect to those guys because I mean they're the true OGs, but that's just yeah, not my cup of tea.
Yeah, no, that's it takes kind of a sick weirdo to put yourself through something like that, I would imagine.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Oh man. Oh, I slept almost all day today. I took the day off and just like tried to catch up on sleep after this last weekend. Like I've been going pretty hard since Thursday, getting some last minute stuff done for By the Fire and everything. And like obviously that Operation 11 Charlie body for Javier was really important. So like this entire like last 4 days has been like work, sleep for 2 or 3 hours when I feel like I can't keep my eyes open anymore, then jump back into work. And so today I'm like just kind of recuperating and everything because now my next project is getting some stickers done for Crawl for a Cure. So get those finished and out to Mark.
Yeah, well, I haven't told you, Jay, but within less than the first 5 minutes of this work week, I severely sprained my ankle, so I have not been at work since Monday morning.
Oh no,
Yeah,
really?
yeah, it's totally my fault. I mean, I don't even know if I want to embarrass myself on this podcast. I mean, I've already told a couple people the story, but
Do it, man. I do it every day. Do
so
it.
basically, the remodel we're working on, it's a gated property, so you have to enter the code to get in. Well, for some reason, this gated property, the code is backwards from what it kind of like traditionally is. Normally it's you hit pound then the code. This one you have to hit the code then pound. Well, it always throws everybody for a loop just because it's not normal. So we get to the job Monday morning and I'm talking with my boss and he goes to enter the code to get in, and all of a sudden I hear him go, "Damn it!" And I go, "What?" And he goes, "I entered it wrong." And I hate when that happens because when you enter it wrong, it locks you out of the system for 5 minutes. So we're kind of sitting there. He's getting some material out of his van. I'm kind of like pacing back and forth because the more you keep messing with the keypad, it just prolongs it. So you just got to kind of like walk away and let it sit. Well, next thing you know, I know that we got painters showing up. We got the finished cabinet guys showing up. I'm just like, we need to get in there. We need to get to work. Like this is ridiculous. So I thought I'd be the hero and hopped over the gate to go hit the manual override. And the way I landed, I must have I thought I just came straight down and it was like fine. I guess I must have slightly rolled my ankle when I did it because all of a sudden, like I've never felt this kind of like pain before. Like I couldn't walk. Like every step you took, and it was my right foot. So every step you took, it almost like I was gonna fall to the ground. And I was like, what the hell? Like I was like, I didn't know what it was at first. So I just was like, you know what? I don't want to look like an idiot. I'm gonna walk it off. Trying to be typical. And so I hit the override switch, gates open, everybody starts pulling up, and all of a sudden the painter guy looks at me and goes, "Dude, I saw everything. Are you okay?" And I'm like, you saw that? And he goes, yeah, dude. He goes, you landed hella awkward. And I was like, I didn't even think I landed that awkward. I thought it was kind of like normal. He goes, no, dude. He goes, I'm surprised he goes, did you break your ankle? And I'm like, I don't think so. And he's like, dude, you better go get it, looked at. And then all of a sudden my boss comes out of the van and he's looking at me and goes, dude, what did you do? And I explained the same story I just said to him. And he kind of like laughed for a second, but then he was like, dude, go home and ice it. And I was like, I just let out a big F. I was like, man, I'm pissed. He was like, dude, I'm telling you right now, go home and ice it. Because if you don't go home and ice it, and you try to work through this, and you really screwed something up, you're going to be out a lot longer. And I was like,
oh yeah.
So I was like, all right. So I, reluctantly went home. And of course, then I get home and I'm like laying there with the ice. And then, Michelle's giving me the whole, make sure it's, what if it's broken? You might need to go get x-rays, because if it's broken, you might need to find out in case like they need to put you in a cast or something. And all of a sudden I got everything going through my head. Great. Now I'm going to be out of work for weeks. And I got, and I'm just like starting to have like the whole panic is setting in. And I finally caved, went down to Kaiser, got x-rays. They said there was no broken bones or fractures. So that was good. They were just like, we're going to label it a class 1 sprain, which even for the pain I was in with the class 1, and I'd like to think I have a pretty high tolerance for pain. I was like, I don't want to know what a class 2 or 3 is.
Dude, a good sprain hurts worse than breaking bones.
So
like it's no joke. Like no wonder no wonder it hurts as bad as it does. Like that's pretty typical.
So they just said, ibuprofen, every 6 hours, ice and keep it elevated. And they sent me home with some crutches and a little brace to kind of keep it stable when you're like hopping around. So that's been my life since Monday. Like it's one of those things, I've been pissed. Like every day I keep telling myself, like I was telling my boss, I said, oh yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. Don't worry. I'll be back tomorrow. And he's like, yeah, huh? And I'm like, and then like I wake up in the morning, go to hop out of bed and you're just like, oh yeah, no, I can't even put weight on it. You're like, not happening. And then, so now I'm just like, fuck, I want to get back to work so bad. I'm just not a sit around person. So that's what's driving me up the wall. So, but yeah, so I can kind of relate. It's like, I haven't been resting, but it's like, I've been sitting around a lot. And it's like, and then of course I got like, Elio said it, Todd said it. Oh, why don't you go wrench on some of the RC cars? I said, well, here's the problem. Some of those cars, I am waiting for some parts. The other thing is I do have some fabrication to do. Well, the problem is I can't, I usually typically am standing there when I'm welding at the table because then you can bend down, you can do whatever you need to do. Well, if I'm using crutches as kind of like a, support system to kind of make sure I'm standing where I need to be, I don't know how I'm going to weld, pinching crutches under my arm. And I said, it's going to end up being like crap and I'm going to be pissed off at myself. So I just said, not getting any of that done.
You're a hardworking guy. You deserve some downtime.
Yeah.
Maybe find a video game you like and just have fun.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to, like, today was actually the first day I woke up, and it wasn't like yesterday. It woke me up out of sleep, throbbing. Like I was still kind of like, I still kind of feel the swelling in there. So I was just kind of like, ugh. And then today actually was like, it feels pretty good, but I still couldn't really walk on it. So I was like, and everyone keeps warning me, dude, don't try and walk on it before it's ready or you're going to you just keep going in circles.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, dude, this is like horrible. It goes to show you, I've never really broken anything and or sprained anything like this before. So it's like, it's all new territory for me.
Dude, shit's not fun. Not at all.
So, but yep. So that's about it.
Yeah, I worked.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, see, I wish I was working all week. That's the thing that drives me nuts. But it's still funny, though. I still get the phone calls from all the other guys. Like today, hey, that cabinet up in the closet, there's two electrical outlets up there. What are we doing with those? And I got to like walk them through it all. And the hard part is I'm not there, so I can't physically walk them through it. So I'm just like hoping they understand what the hell's going on.
Yeah, so, no, I get that. There's a struggle within.
Yeah, I just don't want to have to show up later and go, oh, you guys totally botched all this. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. I may force myself to go tomorrow, and that just might be the end of it, and just say, hey, I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna be obviously climbing up and down ladders or whatever, but I'll be present. I might try and make myself present on the job site, so that way at least I know shit's getting done. But we'll see.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
haven't.
and you can answer their questions and stuff.
But yeah, so that's about it. I
Sounds
mean,
like
I
a
know.
fun week.
Yeah, I know it's kind of sounding like a short episode, but was there anything else we wanted to cover?
Um, no, it's as far as like releases and stuff go, it's kind of quiet. Everybody knows Proline by the Fire's coming up this weekend, and then the next big one after that's Crawl for a Cure.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. There's not a whole lot to go over, really. I mean, this week, thankfully, we had a guest because otherwise, it would have been a really quiet episode.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
I think we're hitting that point in the RC because the holidays are coming up. I'll take a guess now that we're gonna start seeing a couple more like cool releases in the next like couple months because they want to get this stuff out so it's ready by Christmas and stuff, so people start buying it. That's just my guess. I could be totally wrong and nothing could be coming out, but
No, you're right. We're trying to time some stuff for Christmas too. So I'm sure there's a lot of people doing that.
so yeah, so I guess everyone else is just going to be like us, hang in there, and we'll get through the slow stuff, and then there'll be a lot of hopefully cool products to talk about in the coming months.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we also dropped the ball. We didn't put up our questions like we normally do. So yeah, like I said,
That's okay though, because this is kind of like breaking things up, because like you start feeling like it's routine and stuff, and we just go through all the questions and everything. Like this is actually kind of nice just to have like a different episode for a change.
yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, but I just feel bad because if there's anybody that wanted to ask, Wes a question,
Oh yeah, no, that's true.
we could have got it on there, but this is what happens when our fearless leader doesn't get off work, and we kind of let things slip through the cracks. So
Hey, I can always come
Yeah,
back.
poor guy.
Just send me a message.
That's true.
it's true.
We could do that. We could do a part two.
Yep.
I almost forgot about it. I was at work today working on a single turbo full tube chassis pre-runner, and then it was like 5:40 by the time I was walking out of the shop going, oh crap, I got a podcast tonight. And I didn't hear anything, and I texted Travis through Facebook Messenger, and I was like, are we still doing stuff tonight? And he goes, oh yeah, don't worry. And I go, oh okay. So
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're just a little slow.
yeah, no worries. Any questions, whatever, I'm always available. I've always set something else up again, or
Yeah, no, appreciate it.
Yeah, it's always nice to
Definitely.
get some of these guests back later on, like do like a follow up, like like especially since you're talking about the Terminator build. It's like we can always bring you back once that's all done. You can give a little more insight, how it turned out, all this, that, and the other.
yeah, I got that, the I-beam truck, shocks, all sorts of fun stuff.
So yeah, no, that's awesome. Because yeah, it's funny because I was gonna say I know there's a couple people that make 3D printed bypass shock looking covers, but this will be nice to see the first like actual functioning shock.
Yeah,
I would like to get even just one of the covers from somebody, like for our Rift that we have. I would really like a set of bypasses on the rear of that, but
well, and the
hard to
neat
find.
thing about this is if you don't even want them functional, you can at least, the housing itself can still hold fluid, so you can make them act as like a piggyback shock.
Oh, nice.
Because I do plan on, once they're functional, I probably wouldn't make a ton of functional, but I would sell, shock bodies and all that for people. Just because there is no market for them, I'm the first one kind of like doing it. But
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
No, that'd be cool.
Ma-
What I was wanting to do something like that just for just aesthetics, basically. Like my thought was like with the Rift, for example, I'm running dual shocks in the rear of that, and I was thinking like, okay, I'll just do like a 3D printed tube that has the bypass tubes and stuff on the outside of it, and it'll just like thread on over the top of the threaded shock body, but actually having like an actual body might be way cooler.
Yeah, I'll post some photos in the group that we're in right now. That way you guys can kind of see some inside photos of like what they are. Because I only posted that one.
Yeah, that'd be rad.
Photo, but yeah, and the way I designed it too. I mean, the hardest part is I'm sure there's probably not a lot of valving that I can get out of it just because the size of the compression and rebound tubes. And it's also like, do I do a staggered, bypass stock style, or do I do, a crossover where the compression and rebound tubes cross over each other? I mean, there's so many things that you can get into. I'm just right now just trying to get to a functional state, and then I'll move from there. But
that's gonna
it's
be
all
fun. Yeah,
all new territory.
That's rad, though. I mean, it's good that somebody's doing it. I mean, it's very, very cool. I don't know how many of our listeners understand what we're talking about right now, but it's what you're doing could be very groundbreaking. So it's going to be neat to follow along.
Yeah, I will. It'll be neat to actually have them done. And even if like, I also have, I drew up stuff for just an internally bypass shock, where everything was held inside the standard shock housing. So let's say even if the bypass tubes didn't work out, I could still leave them there, but it will still technically be a internally bypassed RC shock. So there's so many different ways. It just depends on if I can get what I want out of it.
Right. It's going to be exciting to see what happens there. That's cool. Well, do you guys have anything else, or we're at about an hour and 15 right now?
That's what I was gonna say. I think instead of kind of getting a little awkward, calling it an episode.
Sounds good. Well, hey Wes, thank you so much for coming on, dude. You're doing some big things. It's gonna be really cool following you on your adventure with all of this, because it's trophy trucks are rad. RC trophy trucks are rad, and it's neat to kind of see like a revival of those again. So thank you for being the dude to pick it up and lend a lot of like one-to-one knowledge to the actual builds, because everybody loves, shrunken down versions of the real thing. So
yeah, and that's what I try to bring to it. And of course, if anyone has any questions, they can always hit me up on my Instagram. It might take me a little bit to respond, but I'm always down to answer anyone's questions, dumb or smart. Some things I can't release, but I will try my best to give anyone a reasonable answer. I'm not like one of those I build cool trucks, don't talk to me.
Right. No, I understand.
Because that frustrated me when I was like starting out. There's many big RC people who I wish I tried asking questions for, and they'd never answer. And I try not to be like that.
Yeah. No, that's good. Keep it fun. Help everybody. I think everybody pretty much understands too that, like if you're a business owner and you're coming out with products and stuff like that, you can't always divulge everything, so I'm sure people will be kind of understanding and respectful of that fact when they're asking you stuff.
Yeah, I try to give a decent bit, but I can't give out too much stuff. And even we'll have to meet up sometime, since I know I think Jay's pretty close. I mean, I think most of you guys are pretty local to me as well, but
I'm Seattle, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I'm way the hell out of the way.
So you came all the way down to Axial Fest from Seattle?
We did, yeah.
Because I remember, I think you were there.
It's been a couple of years, but I was there 16 and 17. Those are the only two times I've made it.
So that's because I've never seen you. Because I was like, hey, are we gonna hook up on the show or something? And that was the debut day of the Terminator chassis.
That was me.
Well, that was you?
Yes. Because I said, don't worry, I said, once this is all over and we get back to everything, I said, we'll be in touch about getting on the show. Yeah, that was me.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm in
so
Redwood
crowded
City.
and busy. there was a ton of people. I was like, oh, I know you. You're from, because Andre's like, oh, you got to meet up with him, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go introduce myself.
So yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. I know this year was also kind of crazy too. Like I did so much running around. Like there was so much like I said, Thomas from MKS was out, so I was with him on Friday, and then Saturday was trying to like make sure that anything else we were doing was all taken care of, and it was a lot of running around, especially since I was only there for 2 days.
yeah, no, like I didn't have it. Like the other issue, which I'm starting to try to push, is like everyone knows the trucks, but they don't know the guy behind the trucks. And I didn't have a shirt, so they'd always see like the truck, but like it'd half the time be someone like, oh, I know him. He's always been wanting to like meet up and stuff, but I didn't have a shirt, so they had no clue who I was. I was just some other RC dude. So
Yeah, I can see that. And you know what's really funny is I've always found it very interesting, especially with the way social media has been going on, that people seem to know the people's handle before they actually know who the people are. And it's funny because like you'll be like, because I remember when I first started doing all the Dean Design stuff, they would be like, "Oh, that's Dean," and it's like they don't realize that it's my last name, so it's like I don't really get too like like hot and bothered by it, but it's just funny because it's like they start associating that's that. Or like when you're describing somebody, oh yeah, have you seen so and so, he builds this, and they're like, oh, you mean whatever, like creepy crawler, and you're like, oh yeah, him, and you're like, but you don't know who his name actually is. It's funny.
It's funny you mention that because I've had a couple people that have messaged me on Instagram asking for like order status and stuff, and I'm just like, could I have like your real name or like an order number or something? Because like RC Sick Crawler 69 really doesn't tell me a whole lot, guys. So
yeah, I feel that.
so it happens.
So yeah, no, it'll be good.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for joining us. It was awesome time, and thank you everybody for tuning in and listening to us. And we'll get Wes back on here for round 2, and especially with all the stuff that he's working on and everything, so he can kind of give us an update on where things are heading and some of the stuff he's working on and releasing. So that'll be awesome to have you back. So thanks again, everybody, and have fun by the fire if you're going this weekend, and be safe traveling and all that good stuff. So we'll catch you all next week.
See ya.